Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. Today, we're going to be going over the Eastern Conference Finals. While I'm currently sitting here scared for my life for the draft lottery, which I'm going to be live streaming, by the way, about 7:45 Eastern time if you do want to watch my reaction to that. We've also got game one of the Eastern Conference Finals, Celtics versus Heat, two of the best teams in the league this season. The Celtics, who really caught fire in the second half and managed to not just take down Brooklyn in a sweep, but take down the defending champions in 7 games in the last round. And the Heat, who came in being doubted by many as a 1 seed, beating the Atlanta Hawks and then taking out the newly James Hardened Philadelphia 76ers en route to what we have now, a rematch of the conference finals from a couple seasons ago, which was really entertaining, and I expect this to be pretty similar. These are very different teams. I think both of these teams are better than the teams that they were back then. We'll see how it goes. I think that there's a lot of fun things to take away from the last couple series for each of these teams, and a lot of fun things to talk about involved in this series itself. Some of the storylines, what I think each team needs to do to win. So let's go ahead and break down this Eastern Conference Finals matchup. And of course, at the end, I will give you my prediction for who I have winning the whole series, and then eventually moving on to the NBA Finals to represent the East and go up against either the Mavericks or the Golden State Warriors. I'll be making a video talking about that series too, probably tomorrow. So if you want to see that, make sure to let me know in the comment section below. Leave a like and subscribe. Let me know who you think is going to win this series, and let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to start by talking about the Heat's perspective and then going to the Celtics, just kind of some of my questions for each of these teams. So first, for the Miami Heat, really the big question mark is how do you score on this defense? This Boston defense did a great job shutting down Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. They did their best on Giannis Antetokounmpo, the best player in the league, in my opinion. They did have a couple shakier performances, but Giannis is kind of just Giannis. It's really hard to stop him ever. But the way that they played on Durant and a lot of times Giannis really gives me a lot of faith in their defense and what they can do. And this Heat team, while Jimmy Butler's been incredible, and we'll talk about him in a minute, they don't have a scorer like Giannis or Kevin Durant on their roster. So are they going to be able to consistently score against the Celtics? One of the keys that we've seen is you have to have a superstar level player to really get wins on this Celtics team consistently on the offensive side of the ball. And so they're going to have to rely a lot on scoring by committee, which they've done all season, and Jimmy Butler finding his way into the paint and taking advantage of those mismatches that he did a lot against the Sixers. He would get smaller defenders, or really just any defender that wasn't like Joel Embiid, take them into the paint and go up really at them kind of in that mid-range, post them up and really bring them all the way to the basket as well. The problem is the Celtics don't have a lot of those guys. Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Grant Williams, Al Horford, Robert Williams. Those aren't guys that you can really post up like that. Tyrese Maxey, for example, is like a kind of a smaller guard that Jimmy could, get a switch and then try and post him up a little bit. The Celtics really don't have a guy like that, maybe like a Peyton Pritchard, but he's a bench player. So that's one thing they definitely have to figure out is how they're going to score. And of course, in that same vein is, can Jimmy keep hooping like he has been? Jimmy's been one of the probably the most consistent player in these playoffs so far, which I did not see coming. One of my big concerns for the Heat coming into these playoffs was who was going to be that number one guy. I didn't know if Jimmy Butler could do it. He had a lot of shaky performances leading up to the playoffs, and really outside of that one bubble run, he's never really been the guy to do that. Carry a team offensively to a championship, or at least to an NBA Finals, and he's done a phenomenal job of doing so up to this point. So can he keep doing that against this really tough Celtics defense, especially with the amount of size that they have, having Robert Williams, Al Horford, Grant Williams, a lot of the size, like I mentioned, in their starting lineup with Tatum and Brown both being taller as well. How do you get those looks that you were getting against like a Tyrese Maxey? How's Bam going to be able to deal with the Celtics size is another question that I have. With the Sixers, if Joel Embiid wasn't on the court, then Bam kind of could just go at whoever, because their backup bigs were Paul Reed. They would go small ball sometimes with Tobias Harris. DeAndre Jordan played occasionally, but by game 3, he really wasn't playing anymore. But the Celtics have a ton of guys with size, including Daniel Tice, who I haven't even mentioned so far, who can really make him work. He's going to have to continuously deny them the ball, which he did a good job of that against Embiid a lot of games, but he's going to have to step out a bit more in the perimeter with Al Horford like in the corner, which is going to prevent him from being much of an impact down low defensively, like they're going to need him to be against guys that can really get going downhill like a Tatum and Brown. On the offensive side of the ball, he's had some issues sometimes with getting aggressive. And if he's really getting stuffed or it's hard to get looks down low, if he gets passive, it's really going to hurt the Heat's ability to score just overall in general. Because if he's not being a threat on the inside, whether he's getting it down low or he's shooting a mid-range or he's just hitting like a hook turnaround jumper, something like that, it really is going to limit them. They need that inside presence to open up the game for shooters like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus. Jimmy Butler has been hitting threes consistently. Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo, Duncan Robinson if he plays. They need to have the game opened up for those guys, and so they need Bam to really be a presence in this series if they're going to want to advance. In a similar vein, can Hero and Lowry really figure things out? Lowry has been dealing with some injuries, so he's been kind of inconsistent. So I'm not really sure what version of Lowry we're going to see. He's already confirmed to be missing game 1, and I'm not sure about the other games, but I wouldn't be surprised if he misses more in the early goings of this series. And if he's not there, when he's healthy and playing up to his usual skill level that we've seen from him in the past, in particular like the 2019 championship run, Lowry's really impactful offensively and defensively. He would give them another weapon to throw at like a Jaylen Brown or a Marcus Smart. Just a guy who's really tough and physical. He takes a lot of charges, which could deter them from driving inside as well. So if they're losing Kyle Lowry for multiple games, it's going to hurt them a lot. And then ultimately, how do you slow the Celtics? This is a really good defensive team, but the Celtics have found ways to get buckets. Who do you put on who? Is Jimmy on Tatum? Then who do you put on like a Jaylen Brown? They really don't have a lot of weaknesses on that team offensively, so you can't really just leave guys open either. We saw what happened to the Bucks when they left Grant Williams a lot open last game, and he hit 7 threes, tying the Game 7 record in NBA history. You can't just leave guys open on the Celtics, so they're going to have to figure out what to do with that as well. Now on the Celtics side of the ball, there are also some question marks that I have for them. One of the big things is, can they stay healthy and keep their guys on the court? It's already been confirmed that for Game 1, Marcus Smart is going to miss Game 1 with a foot injury, and Al Horford is going to miss due to health and safety protocols, meaning that he might not be back for Game 2 either. So Al Horford and Marcus Smart being out for at least one game, if not maybe 2, is a huge blow to this team. You've really got to try and take one of these games in Miami before going back to Boston, because you don't want to have to go back and forth and then inevitably play a Game 7 in Miami if it does get to that point. You don't want to have to do that. So taking home court advantage early, I think, is super critical for Boston. It's something that they've continuously done, and I think it was huge for them in that series against the Bucks, winning one of those early games. You've got to be able to do that against Miami, because Miami is a place that you really don't want to play. They are really good at home. So getting one of those early games is going to be tougher without a Smart and or a Horford. And they've also seen like Robert Williams miss some time, even though they have continued to win without him, even when he's not in there. Obviously, they have a lot better chance of winning when he is healthy. You've also got, can the offense consistently score? That Heat defense is really tough. Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, like we mentioned, Victor Oladipo, Bam Adebayo. They've got a lot of physical guys that can really get up on you inside. And we saw a couple times in the Bucks series when they got physical, when Giannis was really patrolling down low, Brook Lopez down low, blocking shots at the rim, when they were switching a lot. The Celtics kind of struggled to score sometimes. And this Heat team is similar in that vein. They've got a lot of great defenders. Of course, they don't have like a Giannis Antetokounmpo, but Bam Adebayo, for example, is a really, really stout and great defender. He's versatile. He's quick. He can go out on guards. He can switch on things. He's not going to get exposed if he gets switched in the pick and roll, unlike a Tatum or a Brown. We saw what happened with Bam Adebayo against Jason Tatum in Game 1 of the 2020 Eastern Conference Finals with that block at the rim. He can hold his own. So Bam's going to do a good job. There's not like a Brook Lopez who you can kind of exploit. The Heat are really switchable and are able to make you pay in a lot of different ways if you try to isolate them. And finally, can Ime Udoka outcoach Eric Spoelstra? Are we going to see Ime Udoka continue to step up like he has against potentially the best coach in the league in Eric Spoelstra? In my opinion, he probably is the best. And so going up against him, a guy who's been to the NBA Finals multiple times, I believe 5 times at this point in his career, he's trying to go there again in another Eastern Conference Finals where he's done this a million times. How are you going to be able to outcoach him as a first-year coach? Can you make the necessary adjustments, especially with potential injuries with Al Horford and Marcus Smart? Robert Williams maybe could miss some more time. How how do you continue to adjust and how do you work around what Spoelstra does? And one more thing that I didn't mention that I don't know why I didn't write on my note sheet up here is Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's been really hit or miss in these playoffs. They're going to need him to be that bona fide number 2 in this series, or things are going to get really rough. They've been winning kind of by committee. Jaylen Brown, don't get me wrong, has had some really solid games, but especially earlier in the series against the Bucks, he was putting up, to quote my brother, Tobias Harris numbers, which if you're going to get that from Jaylen Brown, who is supposed to be your clear number 2, you can't have that. You can't have him putting up like 19 points. You need him to be putting up like 23, 24, 25 efficiently while playing pretty good defense on either Jimmy Butler, Victor Oladipo, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, whoever they are playing that you are guarding against. You've got to be able to give it your all on both sides of the ball to really give the Celtics the best shot to win, especially if Marcus Smart is out for multiple games. He's got to lock in defensively as well as give them that production, and that can be tough against a really physical team in Miami. So those were some of my thoughts on this series. I'm really curious to see how it goes. I think this is going to be a really fun matchup. I could see it really going either way. I don't think any pick in this series is wrong. Really, for either Eastern Conference or Conference Finals, I think both of them, either team has shown that they can win. But for this one, just because I've seen them a little more consistently, I trust in them a little bit more, what they've done in the second half of this season. I also believe that they have the best player in this series in Jason Tatum. I'm going to pick the Boston Celtics to win this series in... I'll go 6 games. I'm going to pick the Celtics in 6 games. I do think the Heat... This could very well go like Heat in 6 or Heat in 7, Celtics in 7. I just think it goes at least 6 games. I'm going to pick Celtics in 6, maybe 7, depending on how much time those two guys miss in Horford and Smart, but they have shown an ability to have the next man up mentality. When someone misses time, someone steps up, and I think that the Celtics are going to be able to continue to do that. I think that with game 1, it's important for the Celtics to try and catch the Heat off guard, having not played for a little bit while the Celtics just played a couple days ago. That could work against them because it was a really physical series going up against the Bucks, or they could be in a lot more rhythm, which we've seen teams a lot these playoffs kind of come out slow when they've been dealing with long breaks. So maybe we see something like that. But I'm going to trust in this Celtics team. I think they get it done, and I think they advance to their first final since like 2009, 10, something along those lines. For the first time in a really long time, I think the Celtics are going to be representing the East in the conference finals. So those are my thoughts on this series. Let me know what your takeaways were from their past series, who you have winning this, all that stuff in the comment section below. Once again, I would love to hear what you have to say. But for right now, I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real One, say it back.